What's going on, everybody? We are back for another INS15 interview with this time with the four-wheel drive leg winner of the trackside race, Mr. Broc Champlin. Brock had some things to say about after the incident with Aydin Horn. He also had some things to say about what's going on with carpet racing and motors and what happened at dawn. It was actually a good chat with Brock, and he was very open about a lot of things. And I think you're going to be surprised at what he said about his thing with the clash with Aiden. And I think you're going to be surprised with some of the things he said about what happened at dawn when with carpet racing. So that said, I'm going to let it go, and you can have a word with Broc Champlin. I want to just before I go any further, I just want to say thank you to JConcepts, Amy and Hobby Wing, Exalt, Reedy, Schumacher, and of course Elite RC Productions for making this all possible. I hope you guys enjoyed this chat with Brock, and let me know what you guys think about his thoughts in the comments of this podcast, whether you're listening to it online, on audio only, or YouTube. Let us know what you think in the comments. Joining me in the virtual studio is the man who took full points and the overall win in the four-wheel drive class at Trackside at the season opener of the JConcepts INS15 Indoor National Series, Mr. Broc Champlin. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm going to call you like that because that's how they do it on wrestling, with Brock Lesnar. That's how Paul Heyman used to say his name.
Yeah, he's a little more famous than I am, but yeah.
He is. But congratulations, you took a hard-fought win at Trackside this past weekend in the four-wheel drive class. It was a very hard-fought win. You didn't TQ it. Rivkin did. He won A1. I thought he was going to kind of walk away with it at that point, and then he made that mistake in A2, and you got it. And he made another mistake, and you was able to get it. Some good battles with Aiden over the weekend as well. Pretty good season opener for INS. Not the first time you guys have met. Obviously, all of you met at the Clash about a month prior to that. So, yeah, welcome to the show for the first time as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, as far as like the recap on the mains, yeah, Spencer obviously made a couple mistakes there. A1, I think it was just a nervous race, so we weren't going at it maybe as people would have liked, as far as like just racing with each other and nose to tail. And then A2, A3, he made a mistake, but then Aiden and I went after it. So
some good races, good qualifying too. We're going to talk about all of that stuff, all that fun stuff in this short interview with you. So we kind of go up to Trackside. This is my first time getting her. As I talked to Aiden, I was really impressed with everything. I've known you mostly as a carpet racer, but then I found out that your home track now in Utah is actually dirt. So you've probably been doing a lot of racing on dirt with your Schumacher cars over the years. You go up into this race. It's the second big race of the year. You've got a much bigger Schumacher team than 2024, 2023. Usually it was kind of just you and Cavallari at these races. I'm not sure. I'm sorry if I'm ignorant to who some of the other racers might have been on the team at that time, but now you have names like Tom Rindernick, Cole Tallard, Nate Sutherland, to name a few. And then I'm sure there's many other players on the team now that I don't know about. We've seen both Schumacher and X-Ray grow immensely in 2025 with kind of like the departure from TLR. Not at TLR because there was quite a few TLRs at this track this weekend, which I was actually surprised, and they were very good, by the way. But yeah, how does it feel coming into this race with such a much bigger team, a U.S. presence?
Well, I would say obviously having more people on your team, more people to try stuff, you kind of we're growing not only as a team, but like we're growing the race cars. So it's definitely different. Cavallari and I, we were just kind of the two guys. It was kind of the only two Schumacher guys that were at the race were Cavallari and myself. Excuse me. So we definitely have grown. Obviously, Cav and I worked together for 2 years, so we built a good relationship. And now I'm being able to build a relationship with Tom very closely. Cole, Nate, a bunch of the guys that Tom has been friends with kind of throughout his racing career. Some of the younger kids have joined as well. So there's a lot of more opinions, good opinions, a lot of people with a lot of input. So it's been super helpful to start the year, especially in four-wheel drive. Obviously, we this wasn't the first race of the year. Clash was. Clash wasn't that hot for me. Two-wheel drive was super good. It was kind of just like a Dakota and I show. He still had my number every single time we were on the track, but we were able to kind of figure out a couple things to help the car not only there but just going forward, which helped at trackside. I've actually only done good there one time, which was the previous AE race, which was like back in November. So last year, my worst result all year was at this track. I finished 9th in 4-wheel. So it just kind of, yeah, it was, yeah, we've definitely grown,
I would say from
improved.
ninth to first is a good improvement.
Yeah, big improvement last year. I mean, 9th was, everything wasn't going good. The driving wasn't good. The car wasn't how I wanted it. But yeah, so far to start the year, we learned a lot at Clash.
Hmm.
Was able to do a bunch of running before trackside because I was obviously irritated about the results from Clash. And then I showed up to trackside, and that's a track where, I mean, it's pretty kind of pronounced that the Schumacher 4-wheel drive with belts doesn't accelerate quite as hard as shaft driven cars. So to be able to keep up on a track that has 180 stop and go and you're just flipping around, it's your stuff has to be pretty good. So we definitely made a lot of improvements, and I'm kind of excited to go see what happens from there. So
How'd you do in two-wheel drive there last year?
I believe I finished fourth,
Okay.
maybe fifth. I'm not 100% sure. I don't
So
remember.
you had a better year completely then, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. 2-wheel was about the same. I struggled in 2-wheel drive this
Yeah.
time around. The car kind of from Omaha till basically Clash hasn't really changed. And then we wanted a little bit more out of the car, just regarding rear support. And
Hmm.
then the whole time I struggled with rear support there at trackside. And then just come to find out the problem was diff grease. So
Really?
the diff, yeah, when everybody left on Sunday when we were all done and I was able to run and I could listen to the car, I was barking my diff around the whole track, but it didn't sound like it was barking. It sounded like just like a ridiculous gear mesh when you got onto the throttle.
Okay.
And so I started using a different diff grease and it's just not thick enough. So the diff was just never, I mean, it's just like you're running no diff when you get on throttle. It's just slipping. So the car is just squatting like crazy, not producing any grip, doesn't want to go forward. So I'm actually pretty stoked with a P5 after learning all
After having
that.
not a 100% car, but you live and you
Yeah.
learn, right?
Yeah.
That's what those extra test sessions are for afterwards. I always see you guys doing that after all this racing. You guys are still going out on the track while we're packing up.
Yeah.
But yeah, a bit of a struggle bus for you in two-wheel drive, but four-wheel drive was great. We saw, uh, I want to say quiet because a lot of focus was kind of on well, Spencer obviously took TQ. Spencer started off very slow and then kind of warmed up in qualifying, but faded kind of in the finals. You was kind of steady in four-wheel drive the entire time. Aiden was there, and then in two-wheel drive, he was watching Chase and Aiden, right? And then, of course, we had some really good qualifying going on in the spec class between Passioni and the Levi twins and a few others. Yeah, so you were second overall behind Rivkin, Horn, Tallard, Schimmel, Leverrier, Samtag, Bada, Rinderneck. Well, actually, it was 10 in, so Lemieux had to bump in. Lemieux was one of the guys that had to bump in. He was another one who was very good in two-wheel drive, not very good in full drive, so reverse of you, which I was shocked of. Uh, you, how was you able to adjust more? What was different about your car this year going into the trackside compared to last year? Would you say?
I would say just like completely different settings. I learned a bunch of stuff going into Clash, and then I got to Clash and the car did stuff I didn't like. And then I came back, did more running, and then yeah, I just went back. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm almost on like what I ran at the Worlds for setup, like very similar stuff with just a couple things that are different for like the high grip. But I basically just filed through notes, went back on setups, and just like where did I go wrong? Where have things gone south? And yeah, went back to kind of what I knew, and then made changes for kind of the way the tracks are nowadays, the grip levels, and I mean, my 4-wheel drive was cheating to drive. It was so easy to drive. Like that track was very, very technical. The jump face, like for the triple, was extremely challenging. That kind of would set you up because if you missed the triple, you'd miss the whole right side of the track. So my car was able to just soak that, absorb it. I knew, and like, I don't know, my stuff was just super easy to drive. So I just went back on a bunch of stuff and improved from there.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about the track. The triple to the double was like just one continuous rhythm section. You had to get it right. Obviously, you had one final where you got it wrong, and you paid for that. We're gonna have a look at that in depth as we go on. But that was a very important section of that track. You had to come out of that 180 and come onto power. It was a very dog-leggish, weird corner going up to that angle, taking that triple and making that transition to that double. It was very difficult for all aspects. The mod guys were able to have the power to do the triple. The spec guys or stock guys, top spec guys were able to do it as well. Sometimes they had to check up. But that kind of felt your rhythm into that 180 up through that corkscrew into the straightaway. It almost was like one continuous rhythm section till you got to the end of the straightaway.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I would say the most, I mean, lining up the triple every single lap and landing the triple properly was the make or break. Like the guys that were like, when you're going back and forth, people are saying like the teeter totter effect. It was strictly from the triple.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you miss that, then you don't hit the corner double right, then you blow the next corner, then you maybe push wide, then you're into the 180, then you're readjusting for the corkscrew coming onto the straightaway. Like it's just I mean, the effect of what was happening from that triple. And then even coming off the straightaway, if you didn't get on right, then your timing is weird coming off and you didn't really reset until the double. Like there was only one spot on the track you reset. And it was like normally I always try and look like we did a little training lesson at my home track here that I was doing like coaching on with the track and lines. And there's always like one spot on the track where you can breathe. Um, and it wasn't the straightaway because the straightaway was so fast coming off and it was so technical coming on that like you basically had to hit the double and then coming out of that 180, that was your reset point. It was the backside 180 on the left side after the double. So basically from there till when you got there again, it was just if you missed the triple, by the time you got back there, you were losing 2 or 3 tenths. So yeah, it was a technical layout, everything wrapped together, which is how you want track layouts to be. Um, it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be detrimental if you're missing lines and stuff. I know some people don't like that, but I like it. It makes you have to be on top of it to win. So I thought it was an amazing layout. As good of a layout as you could possibly do with the space, the poles. It was perfect. So
We saw a few cars smack the poles, like that center one coming into the triple. I could count maybe one or two that did, but yeah, it's a very small track, right? 8-foot lanes. And I talked about this with Aiden. He said that it's very hard to see the line from even the driver's stand. You can't really see it, and it's dusty and dirty on the outsides of that track. When if you get out there, you lose complete grip and whatnot. So it's very similar. It's got marbles and dirt, and you just don't see it from up there. But it was a very challenging track. Just watching you guys do it, and that triple double, man, it was make or break. You had to get it right, and you had to get that transition. It was so fast. Like when you stood there and just watch you guys coming through there was like incredible to watch you guys hit it every time. It was very impressive, very impressive. I really thought that in two-wheel drive, I thought Chase was going to be the guy to beat, period. And he was until he got beat. And he was very good. Four-wheel drive, he kind of didn't show up. You guys were the stars of the show. But I think those four-wheel drive cars just were able to transition that better. They were able to send it deeper. Like when they were able to send it over, get it over that pipe into that double and kind of land on kind of similar to we saw a pass, similar to the pass with you and with Aiden, or we saw you kind of do it as well, or him do it, or Spencer do it as well in four-wheel drive. You guys just had the traction of the four-wheel drive to make that pass stick. Uh, I guess what I'm asking was four-wheel drive a little bit easier to drive as well, do with that triple and that double,
I would say yes, mostly because of the dust. That's the
right?
dustiest track we'll race on all year. That track, it dusts up super bad. It
Mhm.
always has. And so you start out the run and you're able to sweep wider before the triple. And then as the run goes on, rather than like the main line getting dusty and it starts pushing you wider and wider and wider. This one pushes you lower and lower and lower. It's so dusty. So then you're trying to hit the triple right off the pipe. And in two-wheel drive, if you barely get it wrong, you're not making it. If you don't make it, obviously whatever happens from there happens. But four-wheel drive, you're kind of able, when you get closer and closer to the pipe, you just hesitate a little bit more, but you have like the front wheel drive to just pick the car up over the jump.
Right.
So I would say, yeah, the section is definitely easier. I had a moment in the last main. I was leading, made those mistakes, then I was behind. I was frustrated, and then I just wasn't running like clean laps. I was still kind of in the hunt, and then I kind of pulled off like I jumped super far left on the triple, swept to the wall, thought I was going to crash, so I held it pinned and just jumped the pipe and everything completely over the double. And then every lap after that, it was like, all right, that got me fired up. But you wouldn't have been able to save it with a two-wheel. There's no possible way, because I was out in the fluff, coming back into the line, and I'm wide open, and two-wheel drive wouldn't have done it. So I would say the track, because that section was make or break, the track was easier in four-wheel drive because you could do it easier.
Yeah, you brought up something too that I forgot completely about, was the pipe size, because we don't really see that's 8 scale yellow pipe that they were using at a track. That's the first 10 scale track I've been with that, and they had these little ramps for the cars to get over. But they're in different places, and like it's once you got jumped into that infield, if you didn't get a lucky bounce, or like if you wasn't in four-wheel drive, you kind of got stuck there and had to get marshaled. So that's kind of different too. I had forgot to even talk about that.
I actually really like it.
Do you?
It screwed me in two-wheel drive, and I still really like it. Because
Okay.
I think, I mean, when you make a mistake, like if you're jumping completely into the infield, you deserve
Mhm.
to pay for it more than just rolling over the pipe, losing half a second. Here you go.
Yeah, because you
So
can't just goose it over it. Maybe if you have
no,
a four-wheel drive.
I think I crashed in four-wheel drive. Like, I'm sure I crashed there multiple times in four-wheel drive. I don't think I've ever curled those pipes ever.
It's hard. If
Yeah.
it's and you have to have a lucky bouncer. There
Yeah.
was some dude, I saw some people jump in there, and I don't know how they came out of there unscathed.
Yeah.
It was incredible. Incredible. Let's bring up the incident that kinda got us going. This was between you and Aiden in the A2 of four-wheel drive, and you guys get together in a good battle at the very last lap, which I think you kinda had to knew was coming, because Aiden kinda did it the lap before, where he jumps to the inside of you. Well, I think he jumps. I think it was fair. I'm gonna be honest with you. I told you this before we got started. I think it's fair. And I think you would have done the same thing. But let's bring it up. And here it is, the last few seconds of the A2 final of four-wheel drive between you and Aiden. We're gonna leave this quiet. There's that double you was talking about, and here's where he makes the dive to the inside. Now, at that point, I know you don't feel like that's fair. You've had some chance to really slow it down, have a look at it. What's your thoughts on it now? I'm gonna play it slowly.
So I spoke to, well, the first thing I did is I said nothing on the stand. I went back and watched the video, and I know you were like, point the camera at the stand, but I said nothing on the stand.
No, there's
I
nothing to
s
understand. I agree with you there.
I said nothing walking back to the pits. And first thing I did was text Jason Rona, because he was standing on the left side of the driver's stand and had the perfect camera shot of it.
Mhm.
And he slowed it down, screenshotted it to walk you back through it.
Yeah, let's get
When
up
you're,
there.
yeah. So basically, I come here, I jump this, and I land super far outside. I was nervous. I go back, the door's wide open. What is he supposed to do? Just, what's the Art and Senna quote? Like, as soon as a race driver never goes for a gap, you're no longer a race car driver.
So
That's
you
kind of the way I think. I even said to you in the interview, I left the door open, but I think the problem that I would have with the situation is I wouldn't have crashed. I wouldn't have, like, when I get hit here,
mm,
I lose time, then I'm losing the tiebreaker because of it. That was the problem that I had with it. Wasn't actually the fact that I got passed. It was
that
the
you
fact that,
crashed.
yeah, when the car flips and then I lose a second and a half, Now in the last main, the tiebreaker, if it comes down to a tenth or two, again, because we're nose to tail and we're the same speed, if I, yeah, basically, it's the tiebreaker that had me frustrated. But even after the fact, I really said nothing. I was just kind of like,
No, there was nothing said. There was nothing said. I always film the driver's stand
yeah,
because you never know what's going to happen. Oh, I. The funny thing about this is, I said this too. Danny actually switched to that camera at that very time, and I almost was so angry at him, but it caught it perfectly. We looked at it as well with Lance later on, and he kind of had the same thing. He says, "Look, man, I don't really see anything wrong with that." He had to go for it,
yeah.
and I agree with him on that. So,
So my thing too was, this was kind of like the conversation I had with other people, because there was other people that were more frustrated about it than I was. Like people that, maybe are cheering for me over cheering for Aiden, my fan base versus his fan base, whatever. Excuse me. There was people that were frustrated, but I was like, I left the door wide open, and the, if you go look at it from the other angle, his front wheels are leaving the jump the same exact time as me. Like
mhm.
we're essentially side by side, whatever happens from there. The other thing is, when we're racing on this track specifically, because it is one of the smaller tracks we race on, there's always going to be kind of like a risk versus reward jump. There's always going to be a high risk, high reward jump. And there was at the AE race as well, there was like a triple into a stall jump, and you could jump the pipe so far and you can make up a lot of time and make a pass, like last second pass. And a couple people obviously attempted this, but that's what you're going to get when you're short track racing. And I think that's what makes the racing good. So, what makes the racing good for people to watch is sections like that. And I definitely left the door open. The part that had me frustrated was the losing the time and then going into A3. I had to win by so much and we're the exact same speed. So I was having to basically bank on him making mistakes.
Which he did, which
Yeah.
he did in A3, and you took the overall. I think you would have, yeah. If we don't go for that gap, then I, I'm saying it like Aiden has to send it, and I knew he was going to do it right there because he had done it already, right?
Right.
And I thought it meant for great racing. We had an exciting A3, and you took the overall win, where it was awesome for you too, going from ninth to first after a little bit of controversy. And I will say this: there was no scatter action between you two. There was no words between you two. I remember when I went up to interview Aiden, I was like, dude, that was gnarly, but it was close. Because even when I first looked at it, I was like, wow. But when I got a chance to relook at it, and I was like, okay, I can see why it wasn't called. He has to go for it. You would have to go for it if it was you. And the only thing as a driver you can be prepared for is to try and prepare for it, not to crash. Like you said, you didn't want to crash.
I was prepared for it. That's why I blew the corner. I knew it was going to
Okay.
happen. That was why I got nervous. That's why I jumped wide, as I knew that was going to happen. Anybody in his shoes would have done that.
Hmm.
So that's where my mistake came in, because had I not blown the corner, it wouldn't have happened. But I got nervous because I knew that something was going to happen. I overthought it. I thought there would be two different options. I either jump wide and I basically create the takeout. So I jump wide. He goes to my inside. It looks like he just blew me off the track. Or I just jump, somehow perfectly hit it because I know he's going to send it, and it just like somehow I come out alive. But when he's in the driver's seat, that's kind of like his pass to make there.
Hmm.
Like if I leave the door open here, he's going to go for it. Maybe this ends up dirty, maybe it doesn't, but the odds are I'm probably there's going to be a good chance I get past there. And I was expecting it. I got nervous. I blew the corner. I made it extra easy for him to pass me. And, I think he took, hats off to him. I mean, it was brilliant. He had to perfectly downside the triple and perfectly step on the throttle to get over the jump, and he did it. So,
Yeah, it wasn't easy to do. You had to do it
yeah.
and survive not crashing,
Yeah.
because you could have crashed just along with you at the same time. So it made for exciting racing. It was really good at racing the entire weekend at this race at this track. You brought up a good point about there being a jump or a obstacle within the track that made it difficult. We saw that with the triple to the hip jump. It made it difficult for you guys in mod. It made it difficult for the spec guys. I love that factor into the track. Even for a track that was small. I remember when I first got there, I was like, wow, this track's tiny. But I was able to see that the challenge, and once I saw cars going on it, I knew it would be challenging.
I
So
would like to wrap back into
go ahead.
one of your guys' podcasts. You did a podcast with Jason Ronas, like
Mhm,
the opener or whatever, and I watched it. I was wrenching, had flicked it on, and I was listening to what Jason had to say about just kind of like what draws all the attention to this facility, because it obviously is a small track. Everyone's on top of each other in the pits, you know. Everyone always ends up sick. I got sick.
I
There's a
didn't.
million people. That's
I was fine.
crazy. But like a bunch of us always end up sick. But what makes it so much fun? And I think it is because the racing is always so close. It's always like a game of a like just cat and mouse. So like there's always like, oh, you gain a tenth, lose a tenth. And then the racing is like it's aggressive because you have to be.
Mhm.
And it just draws people back. It's so exciting to be out there on the track. Like I'm sure most people could agree that is the gnarliest track to try and run on. That is way more gnarly than most carpet tracks because it's like everything's happening so fast. The grip's forever changing. The dust is coming in. So after 2 minutes, the lines are, you're having to really change your lines. And there's a lot of thinking that goes on. And then you feel so tense driving because everything is so small. So, I mean,
It's a great atmosphere, and you can't
yeah,
hide anywhere, right? So if you
yeah,
do mess up, you're like a couple of rows down from the guy you just messed up with.
yeah.
So you're gonna
It's
see him.
tight.
It is very tight in there, especially for us big boys. Well, dancing around and squirming around. It's amazing how many people get packed into that place.
Yeah, it really is. And then obviously there's those pits, and there's the upstairs pits, the downstairs pits. I mean, that place is awesome. The really good crowd. They really care about the place and the racing, and it's a spectacle every time. So
I I thoroughly enjoyed myself there. Thoroughly loved it. The atmosphere was great. People were great. And I can't wait to go back. I loved it. I loved it. I loved the weather too, and I didn't get sick. I was worried about that because it's very close. So everybody, vitamin C, dude, vitamin C, vitamin C. All right. So yeah, good week, good win for you. You take the overall. Uh, Probably a little bit of revenge from the clash. I mean, the clash is a little bit bigger, but I think very positive second race of the year for you. INS starting that off. And then you go into Desert Classic here in a couple next week as we're recording this, and then I guess you're off for a little bit. Then after that,
yeah. So yeah, the Desert Classic will be next week for me. Probably head down on Wednesday, maybe run a pack or two.
are you
Uh,
going to Australia to the
uh
warm ups?
we are not.
Oh,
I won't get into too many details, but there's a
okay,
reason we are not.
okay.
So
We
hopefully
can't get into those details.
we're gonna hopefully push the trip till later. Go to
Okay,
the, go to there and then go to the Worlds. But yeah, we're not gonna go. We're working on things. So
it's expensive. It's not cheap to go down there.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
cheap at all.
I mean,
Not cheap at
Schumacher's
all.
very committed. They are very good about making
Mhm.
sure they put their eggs in the correct baskets. And yeah, we just don't feel it's an appropriate time for us to do exactly what we want to do. So
Okay. So you are going to go down there at some point, just not when everybody's going on there. That's what
correct.
it sounds like. All right. Got you covered. All right. I guess let's focus on the next round of the INS, which is at RC1, which will be in Michigan. It's carpet. That's kind of your specialty as well. Schumacher's specialty. Are you excited for that?
I would say yes. Last year was the first year I went. I don't know, kind of the racing at the beginning of the year. It takes me a bit to get going each and every single year. Like when we take the couple weeks off, it's a fresh year. Like Clash. I mean, even last year at Clash, I sucked. Somehow won the overall and became like the champ because the way they do it. But I
Mhm.
sucked there. Wasn't that good at trackside. Went to hobby action. Really good at four wheel. Not so good in two wheel last year for the Desert Classic. And then I kind of started to like string together. So I start out like January and February, like my slow months. Like I
Oh,
getting
you have
my
to be
feet
cranked up.
wet. Yeah. And then they get me fired up and then everything kind of accelerates. But last year I went to RC1 for the first time. It was good. The track is gnarly though.
Mm.
Like it'll be entertaining for you guys to film. They always I really enjoyed it the last time I was there, but there is a infamous video of two-wheel drive. I don't know if you ever saw I won four-wheel drive there and then 2-wheel drive. There was a big jump. I was having problems when I land the big jump, static electricity. The car
When Aiden hit you?
cut out. Yeah, so the car cut out in A1, lose A1. A2, I win. A3, I'm winning by like 3/4 of a lap, and I get sniped on the second to last lap.
By
So it's
Aiden.
gnarly. Yeah, by Aiden.
Nice. I forgot all about that. That I was
Yeah.
actually told. So you got some you got a chip on your shoulder getting into RC1.
Yeah. Yes and no. I mean,
Good. I like chips on shoulders.
I definitely think I definitely the carpet. I mean, honestly, to be honest with you, carpet here in the States seems quite repetitive. So I'm
Mm.
stoked that we've got guys on new teams. I'm really excited to see because I know Dakota, like,
Tom too.
maybe, yeah, Tom. Yeah.
Tom.
It's gonna be interesting. I know Tom was running this last week. He was messaging me and stuff, and like the 2-wheel drive. Obviously, every car has its like where it's really good, where it's maybe not as good. And Tom seemed to really like it. He hasn't driven our 4-wheel on carpet yet, so that's gonna be interesting. But the big one is, I know Dakota maybe won't admit it, but he really struggled with the TLR stuff at the end on carpet,
Right.
and now he's running the X-ray stuff, which we all know is really good on carpet. So
You'll see.
it's gonna be
He might not
interesting.
be there. He might not be there.
Maybe.
Remember, he might I think his wife is due April. So he might not be there in May.
Gotcha.
So we'll have to wait till Island Raceway maybe to see him go if that happens.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm not sure when that is. I think that's in June or July. One of
I
those
think
two.
it was in June last year,
Okay,
but
so it's in June this year. Tell me a little bit about RC1 because the only other carpet track I can compare it to maybe Carpet Champs. Is it the size of Beachline, smaller?
nothing alike. For like the pit,
Nothing I like.
you're on top of each other in the pits, kind of like trackside.
Okay.
Um, very nice, very neat place. This isn't like to make fun of OCD, but I'm sure the owner has OCD. He keeps the place really nice, and I really love that. So
Nice.
hats off to him. I can't think of his name right now off the top of my head, but super, super nice guy. They really care about the place. Um, and then, yeah, as far as like track size goes, trying to think what I would compare it to. I mean, maybe like, did you go to Hobby Action?
I've never
You
been to
go-
Hobby Action.
Okay. I don't know what tracks I would compare it to. It's very similar size to Hobby Action though.
Okay.
So it's a beautiful facility. I mean, they do a fantastic job. Last year, the track layout, maybe people were kind of questioning like the super big jump because it was pretty gnarly and there was a lot of chaos because of it. But I mean, it's a separator, I guess. So
Was this the race where they had that triple that nobody was supposed to do at one point? Or was this a different track? No, I'm probably thinking of a track at some
I
other
think it was
race.
a different. I mean, they were expecting us to do it. It was just like for carpet cars with the ride height and stuff. I mean, it's a big jump,
Okay.
big jump. Hard to land the jump, hard to time the jump. But I mean, like I said, you always have to do something out there that's going to separate the guys that can win versus the guys that can't win. And that was the separator last year. And a lot of people didn't like it because a lot of people broke parts on it. But I thought it was just fine. I think it was just, you just had to have a little bit more patience than you kind of expected. So
What about the carpet? What type of grip level are we looking at? Compare it to Beachline, because that's all I have to compare it to.
I would say, well, they just got new carpet. So it's going to have more grip than Beachline. But
Okay.
I would say by the time we get there, after a couple months of running on it, yeah, it'll be pretty good. I know Beachline, as much as maybe people don't realize it, wasn't a very high grip carpet track. So there's not a lot of high grip carpet tracks anymore because the cars are so. I mean, if you were running like back when I ran like the original B6 when I was running for AE, if you were running on these type of grip levels back then with those cars, you would think it's just insane traction. But the
Mhm.
cars are so well designed for the extreme traction that when these tracks don't have as much grip and you have no toe and the cars are set up so stiff, you don't really feel like you're just sliding through corners. So
Hmm.
this will be probably one of the higher grip carpet races of the year, just because they have like some of the newest carpet.
Sweet. I don't think I'll be there, unfortunately.
Really?
I'll be in Portugal.
Uh,
I'll be in Portugal for their IBC race. which I wanted to come, but it's the same weekend as that, so I have to go to Portugal, which is one of 3 trips to Portugal that I'll be going to for racing.
Nice.
Let's talk about. I'm going to ask this before we go, and I'll let you go after this. And it's about carpet racing, and I know you do a lot of it. You know, you're very good at it. And recently, here at the EOS Dawn, we saw some incidents with Ronafalk and your teammate Mikal, as well as there's 2 incidents that were talked about. Mikal and Ronafalk again in I think it was A2, A3. I'm not sure. And then we had JQ say something. I've had Max say this on the podcast, and I've had a couple other people saying that the cars are just too fast for you guys on carpet. Um, what are your thoughts on that? As you're still young, 22 years old, up and coming, carpet racer, not up and coming, your hair, sorry, but continue to grow fast and push the limits of carpet racing to its extreme. What are your thoughts on those incidents and that opinion of the cars being too fast?
I'll start out with the cars and the power. So I went to EOS. Not what year was it? 2023. Maybe the same. Maybe it was last year. I don't know. I went one of the years, and I had a 6.0 in my 2 wheel. Michael and the guys that are that lead that series over there, they had 4.5s, and they were murdering me down the straightaway. It wasn't even a close, but I was able to win. And so that right there kind of pointed out that you don't need as much power to win, and it does kind of point out that there is way too much power. I was at a carpet race this past weekend at Coastal. Same exact thing. As soon as I dialed my radio back, I went faster. So I definitely think there is way too much power in the cars. And I think one of the things to kind of point out was 12 scale racing, modified 12 scale racing on carpet, especially, used to be the cars would get imploded way more often than they do now. The batteries having problems, which we see in off road still. But all that and the racing, there's bigger gaps in the racing, and all that kind of seemed to change when they went to their spec motor racing. And I don't know what it is. I think it's like a 6.0, maybe it's an 8.0, something in the modified 12 scales. But when they changed that for 12 scale, it changed the racing. And I think the racing, at least from a viewer's perspective, because I do pay attention to those things, the racing in 12 scale became better. And I think it would do the same in off road. But where is the limit? Because the problem is now, as well, as that all the stock cars are so fast that, your 13.5 4-wheel drive nowadays, if you have a really good motor and it's tuned properly and perfectly geared, it has just as much horsepower on a clay track as a mod car does. It just doesn't have the bottom end. So where the limit is and what the rules would have to be based around, I don't know. But I think that when they do a spec for it, like they do for spec racing, it also draws more people to the class. So I think not only would it slow the class down a little bit, which I think would be really good for just carpet off-road in general, it'd make the racing to where your car's got to be better. You have to drive better. It's not all about a horsepower race sometimes. But I think it would draw more people to the class because now you're having to tune motors again for mod. So I do think that, maybe they can align some spec motor stuff. As far as the EOS incidents, we kind of spoke for a sec before the show. There's kind of 2 ways to look at the situations. I definitely think a lot of the drama in that situation came from how hard the cars are to control because of the power. The cars are so fast. You're bulleting down a straightaway in Dawn that I think when I was there, it was a small chicane, but you straight lined it and you were pinned basically from the left side to the end. It's probably almost 200 feet of just full throttle. So the cars, when you have a 4.5 and they're probably doing 55, 60 miles an hour, which is ridiculous. And that is very hard to control. So I think that those situations that happened between Orlowski and Ronafolk at the EOS, that specific situation, I'm sure a lot of that, yeah, obviously there's aggression involved, but a lot of that is the cars are so hard to drive that you can't race each other as closely as you want to. So I think that's where some stuff comes from.
I know you don't know a specific turn number, but what would be the turn limit you think for a spec class in mod off-road? What do you think's enough? where we won't have to worry about, we're gonna have to worry about cheating, but what would be enough speed where it doesn't matter if you go faster?
I would say a 6.0 and two wheel, 5.0 and four wheel drive.
Okay.
The problem that you have then though is like, then you got to make sure cars are in blinky. Like the way that you patrol this would have to be, you have to really change some stuff. And I know that these companies don't really want to specifically make electronics just for carpet off-road racing
Mm-hmm.
because that's not going to sell. Like it will sell, but it's not going to sell to the masses. It's not going to make enough money back from what they cost to produce. So I think that a 6.0 and two wheel and a 5.0 and four wheel would be just fine as long as it's set to blinky and you could change obviously everything else. But yeah, I mean, then you're working with gearing and timing, and there's still a chance that even that's too fast. You have to go even further back to our 7.0 and two wheel, 6.0 and four wheel. But you want a slightly faster motor in four wheel for sure.
Yeah, makes sense. You don't want what you don't. People are going to try to cheat, but you want to make it to a point where it's no benefit to you having a faster motor. It's actually a deficit. I like those thoughts. I like those thoughts because it seems to be a hot topic right now. We're going to a carpet race there at RC1 up there in Michigan, and you're like renowned, like world famous carpet racer. Well, dirt racer, 10 scale racer,
Yeah.
because now you in that. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I've never had a real good chat with you. It's pretty good to get your thoughts on a lot of things as well. I got to chat with you a bit at this race. I look forward to seeing you at some of the INS races. You have the Worlds coming up as well. Are you excited for that?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, a lot of people don't realize too is everyone kind of refers to me as a carpet guy, but as I was like beginning to drive,
Mhm.
my dad built a track on an empty lot. It was slick, really slick. The original 702 RC Raceway. There's a lot of people that could still remember that place before it was carpet. That place was one of the loosest tracks on the West Coast. So I did run a lot of loose track stuff. And I wouldn't consider the hobby action world's low grip because it was going to be a lot more grip than we're racing on in Australia. But it kind of showed with the performances that it wasn't not just the carpet guy. So I think
Also was
we're
good at,
excited.
was it the 2019 or 2017 Nats you did really good? Nitro Nats at Thornhill.
19.
Yeah. I think he was driving a Nagama at that point. Not the new
No,
one.
that was AE.
Was it an AE?
Yeah, I switched to Schumacher 2021. The first
Okay.
year I was on Schumacher, I also ran for a Gamma. But yeah, I ran the AE car, led until I front flipped in pit lane and flamed out.
Yeah, we're gonna have a Worlds there in
Yeah,
2026.
I've been discussing this, so whoever's listening, I've been discussing. I want to
He
race.
wants a ride, everybody. He wants an 8 scale ride. You should try to get him one for the Nationals. He did pretty good there. That's coming up here shortly. Cool. Well, I look forward to what you do at INS. I'll be following Desert Classic. If you do well on INS, you get to come back on her and this, prestigious INS race recap. But I do thank you for your time. I thought you handled the weekend good. And you guys put on a show for us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, that's the whole goal. As much as we want to win, we got to put on a show for everybody. So
Yes, absolutely.
sometimes it's
Absolutely.
boring. When one guy's just out front driving away, it's
I
not
hate
very
that.
fun. People would
Everybody
rather
hates that
see
besides the
show.
person that's winning, right?
Yep.
All right, Brock. Well, good chatting to you and good luck at Desert Classic, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Awesome. Thank you, Brock, for your time. We greatly appreciate it. It was a quick chat with you. I hope you guys are enjoying these short form podcasts. They were only supposed to be like 15, 20 minutes, but we got talking. So they're standalone podcasts with clips in the other podcasts. We hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you to Brock. Thank you to Aiden for their time. We look forward to the second round of INS at RC1 on the carpet and seeing what these guys can do. A big shout out to JConcepts, Elite RC Productions, A-Main Hobbies, Hobby Wing, Exalt, Reedy, and Schumacher for all their support. And a big shout out to all you guys out there, patrons of the NNRC and the YouTube members, and of course, the NNRC squad around the world for all your support. Don't forget to hit that like notification button, and I help this all go viral. And we hope you guys enjoy it. Lefty and crew, we're out. See you later.